The High Noon Hot Seat is brought to you by High Noon Podcast. Check us out at highnoonpodcast.com. Today's episode is brought to you by Notes Mom.
Drop the beat.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to High Noon Podcast, the competitive Overwatch podcast. I am your host, Blevins. With me, as always, is Deathblow. What's up, buddy?
Not too much, just trying to stop laughing after realizing I tweeted my Notes Mom, which is probably the greatest thing that's happened in the history of the show, I would have to say.
Yes, it 100% is, and also just to provide a little bit of context, Death, do you want to give the background on this so we don't get yelled at?
Yeah, so I just yesterday, actually, I recorded a solo interview with Note from the Boston Uprising, and you know how at the end we give him a chance to kind of do any shout outs or anything like that. I kind of jokingly said, like, I don't know if your mom would be listening or, but you wouldn't want to forget to give a shout out to her or anything like that. And he goes, well, I doubt she's listening, but, nonetheless, thanks to Mom for being so supportive, all these, the usual things you'd expect.
Yeah.
And she just replied to us and tweeted, to the announcement of the interview, hashtag Mom was listening, and, #1 fan. So just really, really funny, like just absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, here's the question. Is she Note's #1 fan, or is she our #1 fan?
She's not specific here, so I would have to assume that she's our number.
It's us, 100% us.
I mean, it's just what makes the most sense when I sit down and use my critical thinking skills to try to...
For sure. But all right, so I have got a jam-packed episode today. We are going to go over briefly. We're going to talk about the Nexus Cup. I know it's the thing that we're like, oh wait, that's happening. But Overwatch League, yes, we know. But we're going to talk to you about the teams that are in the playoffs, and then we're also going to talk about our picks for the Overwatch League preseason, and then also talk about some news and other good stuff that's going on in Overwatch League. But first, I wanted to remind everyone that tomorrow, so actually if you're listening to this in podcast land, it's already available. Go to the Blizzard store and you can get Overwatch League merch. My wallet is already hurting. But if you don't want to spend any money, but you do want your Overwatch League team jersey of your choice, you can go to our pinned tweet at High Noon Podcast and enter the giveaway. There's a million different ways to enter, and the winner will be getting an Overwatch League jersey of their choice sent directly to their house or wherever they want it shipped. So that's awesome. I know a lot of people are pretty excited about that. I'm excited as well, even though I can't win. Although I didn't technically say I couldn't win. No, I can't win. I haven't actually entered. But yeah, so check out our pin tweet at High Noon Podcast on Twitter and enter the giveaway there. And also, Death, no, you can't enter it. You can't.
I already entered it. It's tough.
Well, I'm skipping over you if you win. But let's start off like we always do and talk about what we did last week. Death, I know you had a pretty busy weekend.
Yeah, so as you can see, it looks completely different here in my apartment. If you're watching on the YouTube, if you're not, sorry. But yeah, so I've just been kind of like top-down reorganizing and completely re-cleaning my apartment, which has been a horrifying experience and very little fun whatsoever, but nonetheless, it was needed. I'm too much of a pack rat, and it had to be fixed. So I've been working on that. I also did start my placement games. I was about 500. As far as my record goes, through 5 games. I think it's like 2-2-1. I've been just kind of like maining Moira, just because I'm still so terrified of like the other guy picking Moira. If I don't, I just want to make sure it's covered by some a general understanding of the hero. So I've been giving that my best bet. It's been going pretty well, but I mean, it's comp, so it's only going to go so well no matter what you do.
Yeah, and actually speaking of Moira maining and actually playing Overwatch, I've been Moira maining and actually playing Overwatch. I have like more hours clocked this season than the last 2 combined right now.
I think the 2 of the last 3 times I logged in to play, like you were already logged in and playing. And at least one of those times you were still logged in and playing when I stopped. So I was definitely proud. It's it's a big ask for an Overwatch podcaster to play. We got there, guys. We got there.
Hey, you know what? I knew it. You know what? I know better than to force these things, but the time has come. I'm like actually like having a lot of fun playing Overwatch again, and I think I've been removed from ranked long enough to like not hate all of the like really annoying stuff that happens in ranked, which it's starting to wear on me. But you know what? I'm being positive, and I'm treating every match like it's a learning experience for me with the new character, Moira, as well as getting better with the characters that I once was decent at, but am now subpar at. So I'm floating around the 2100 SR right now, which is about 400 to 500 points lower than what my top was when I was playing a lot. So I've got some ways to go, but I'm feeling really good about it, and I'd like to push at least 200 to 300 more points, if not get back up to where I was by the end of this season, and then actually make a push to grow next season. So the long and short of it is I'm pretty stoked right now.
Yeah, it's a pretty easy time, not to discredit your effort. It's a pretty easy time to just be excited about Overwatch in general. Like, it's kind of that downtime between the tournaments, right? So it's not even like it's, oh, do I watch or do I play? It's just like, I only have one option, and I'm just super excited about Overwatch. So I'm gonna go. Yeah, we'll see. The dark ages of no Overwatch tournaments is ending soon.
Yes, the dark ages of Overwatch are ending very, very soon. But let's move right along to
Overwatch Today, meme of the week.
Of course, that is our meme of the week. And this week, it's okay. So it's a little bit deceiving because I picked up. Whenever there's something that has to do with me, I'm going to favor it over everything. And it's actually not by Overwatch Today, and it's also not really a meme either, although I made it into a meme. So the long and short of it, and I don't even have this one set up on the YouTube video, so sorry about that. You're going to have to check out Twitter. But so the user on Twitter, Hark Sharks, made a little like banner for the New York Excelsior, and they made like little like cartoon characters of all of the Excelsior with their names and numbers. And I replied to that tweet, of course, saying all you need to do now is make a number 34 for me, like as a joke. Like, didn't expect. They did it. And they made a little character of me dressed up as McCree, Blevins 34, right next to Pine and Janice. And it says a little bubble of listen to the High Noon podcast if you know what's good for you. So huge shout outs to Hark Sharks for that. I wasn't actually expecting one to get made, but I was pretty excited about that. And then I turned this into a meme by retweeting it and tagging Overwatch League and Excelsior and saying, now no one, especially the staff from NYXL or Overwatch League, can tell me that I'm not number 34. Hashtag Blever upward. So now whenever you're talking about the New York Excelsior, please use the appropriate hashtag Blever upward, not ever upward.
Belver upward?
Oh my god, I will literally stop the show now and burn everything. I'll burn it all. I'll cancel the show right now.
We're right on the cusp of the Overwatch League. And
yeah, I just canceled.
Over the same meme I've used 16 times. Fitting ending to our illustrious podcasting.
Yep, it was right then and there. It was just one time too many, but we actually have a lot to talk about. What's that?
I'd say I'd have fun, but I'm not supposed to lie.
No. But we do have a lot to talk about, so let's move right along to It's Tournament Talk. That is the Tournament Talk, and just like I mentioned at the beginning, we are going to talk briefly about the Nexus Cup. There are some English dubbed VODs, I believe, or they're rebroadcasts or something of the Nexus Cup, so definitely check those out. I don't know where they're from or anything. I didn't actually get a chance to look at them yet. But if you go to our Discord, they are posted in the Tournament Talk, so you can definitely take a look there. But wanted to just go through, and we've got the 8 playoff spots locked up. So we've got Kongdu Panthera and Runaway from Group A. We've got X6 Gaming and Seven from Group B. We've got Meta Athena and Foxes, NC Foxes in Group C. And then in Group D, we have Lunatic High and Element Mystic. So notably not in the playoffs, a Miraculous Youngster. And I think that's one that, I mean, we've been talking for a while about them being
they're kind of like on their way out at the moment. At least they're kind of playing in like their last event before they disband. So I'm sure their preparation level's a little down, but also worth noting they're not out of it yet either. Like this is the group stages are feeding a bracket which nobody is eliminated from. They're just the bottom half of each group.
Okay.
Losers bracket tournament, the losers bracket, and then they eventually work
I hate
their way
when
back.
Tournaments do these things. It's just
kind
like
of
super
weird.
convoluted, like makes no sense tournament or
it's
structure.
a little goofy.
I mean, it makes sense, but it doesn't make logical sense when I'm just looking at it, not having watched the whole tournament.
Right. Like to me, group stages are weird if nobody's being eliminated from them.
Right. Like what's the point?
But
I guess for
nonetheless,
seeding, whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. There's definitely, like, I mean, the guys in the losers bracket are losing, you're out, right? And the guys in the winners bracket have one in their pocket. So there was definitely an advantage, clear advantage here. But nonetheless, we're going to see, it looks like, Lunatic High versus Runaway, I think, is really the highlight match here looking at it. The new Lunatic High roster comes out of group stages 3-0 with a 6-2 map record. So obviously a really strong performance from them with a retooled roster. So it's going to be exciting to see what they're able to do and put together. We do have, I don't know what changes are actually like reflected already in Runaway. I haven't been able to catch much of this tournament because there weren't English VODs at the very beginning when I was looking for it. And so there's definitely some out now, and I need to go back and watch them probably in between the preseason and the regular season. But nonetheless, Runaway is going to be going through some problems with their roster. They have, I'm blanking on who it was.
Runner.
Runner is going into the Army or the military in some capacity. So they're going to have some shakeups going on there, some differences. But we also have X6 Gaming, Seven, Meta Athena, NC Foxes, Element Mystic, and Kongdu Panthera. And they're also a retooled roster as well. So they're all in the top end of the winners bracket here. So I think it's really great to see some of these organizations that lost their rosters to Overwatch League still sitting at the top of these tournaments. I think that's really, really.
Well, it makes sense because we did get the announcement of, I guess we probably should have included this in the actual notes or whatever, but or did we talk about last? I don't know. Everything's blurring together now. We've got the announcement of how Contenders is going to work moving forward.
Oh yeah, we did lay those details.
Yeah, so we've got Contenders Asia, Contenders, I forget what. Jesus, I'm so unprepared with this. We've got different levels of Contenders, so like it makes sense for these teams to stay together. Like there's an incentive to stay together because there's going to be a formalized, like Apex is becoming Contenders now, and there's going to be Chinese Contenders and there's going to be other contenders. So like it's not like, oh well, we didn't make it in Overwatch League, let's throw in the towel, boys. It's like, no, we can still do this. Like we can still have a team base and an organization base supplanted and ready if Overwatch League extends into their region, which it likely will eventually, if not next season, maybe the season after or what have you. But also like the Contenders layout is already there, so like you need to have a team and an organization for Contenders. I think we're going to very soon see Contenders like really start to solidify with the established like orgs being in there, and we're going to see less of the corn dog type rosters where it's just a bunch of guys doing it. I think that those are going to I think that type of team is going to be in the open division, and then Contenders is going to be like tier 2 orgs and Overwatch League orgs that are using it as their like farm system or their talent system. I think we're going to start to see that division soon.
Yeah, for sure. And something A. Smith kind of pointed out in chat here is, and there's one team that I'm not 100% sure on. It's the 7 team, and I just confirmed it now. So it looks like the 8 teams that leave the winners bracket are all Korean teams, and the 8 teams that go into the losers bracket are all the Chinese teams. So I don't know. There's a lot of people out there that even think the best Chinese players weren't necessarily represented on the Shanghai roster in Overwatch League, and just about all the ones that people thought maybe should have been included or should have been brought over as well were present in this tournament. So I don't know if we want to try to extrapolate that to say that maybe Shanghai is in a little bit more trouble than the middle of the pack power rankings put them in. I don't know. But nonetheless, we're going to find that answer out relatively soon here anyways. So I guess there's no reason to speculate on it too much. But so it looks like, at least for the winners bracket, if you're a big fan of Korean Overwatch, got a Korean only tournament going on through the winners bracket.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a preview of the Korean, not Apex, the Korean contenders. So yeah, I mean, I guess this is a pretty clear-cut division of like, okay, Korean scene is top tier here, and China is not up to snuff, at least by these results. And it looks like we may have lost Deathblow.
Only for half a second. I clicked the wrong button.
Oh, okay.
But right. I was just trying to find out. I just wanted to give a shout out. The person that's kind of been finding and linking us all these VODs for the English broadcasts was actually totally drunk.
Yep.
In our Discord server. So again, that's in the live tournament talk channel on the Discord if you're looking for them. So shout outs to Totemly, host of multiple podcasts at this point about Overwatch. Heroes Never Die and the Overwatch League Network show are the ones that jump to the top of my head at least. So
there's probably 5 or 6 other ones he's doing too.
Definitely missing a little bit, but
his hand in a lot of different content. But we will move right along as Death gets his camera back up. I think it's here. Of course,
I forgot about that part of it, but yeah, we're back.
Listeners have no idea what's going on, but the YouTubers want that glorious, glorious beard back. But let's move right along. And
it's tournament talk.
Nope, that's the wrong drop. Nope, ignore that. This is the right. This is we're not on offense. We need to stop the push.
Oh, let's break it.
There we go. Thank you. I should start doing the Dr. Disrespect thing where I like pretend I have like a sound assistant and start yelling at them when really it's just me. Come on, Jared. You need to be better than that. There's no Jared. So what we talked about earlier, Runner from Runaway is going to be going into the military, which I don't know all of the exact. I don't know everything about. I don't know everything about the situation there, but I know that Korean men have like an obligation to do military service at some point in their lives. I don't know exactly how that works, and if I'm wrong, someone please tweet at us or correct us somewhere.
There's a lot of different nationalities where it is compulsory that you have to join the service.
I'm pretty sure that is the case for South Korea as well. So Runner is going to be joining the military from Runaway, so we'll be unsure of that roster. I don't think they've announced any changes or new players or what they're going to be doing moving forward, but I would assume that they're going to find a replacement and keep going on. I mean, as one of the top teams in the region that's not in OWL, it seems like it would be kind of silly to really do anything too drastic.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll definitely see them still around for sure. But best of luck to Runner. Obviously, we hope to see him back someday. Resume his esports career, because that roster in particular is one that a lot of people show a lot of support for, even in the Western scene. Like, there's a lot of love for that team, and all of the players have a large say in that. So
yeah, I really do want one of those like pink like sweater jerseys. I want one. Not going to take the bait for the joke here, Death. I put it in there for you.
Oh, I mean, I thought you were gonna make it. I mean, like, his name is already like a meme on the old dad meme that we make all the time. But yeah, he's not going to run away from his responsibility.
There we go. Okay, got there. No, I mean I was gonna take it, but I mean it's your joke, man. I had to let you have it.
As the resident old man in the room.
Old man Overwatch. But next piece of news we've got. This is I guess a continuation of another story, but I don't know if we've really covered it that much. But Sado of the Philadelphia Fusion is suspended for the preseason and the first 30 matches of the regular season for reports of past boosting. So basically, he would go on other people's accounts that paid him to get them up to, Master, Grandmaster, Top 500, whatever. And he basically did that as a paid thing against the, terms of service, etc., against just the, the spirit of Overwatch and ranked. So he got banned for that.
I think even more than that, like he went beyond just like doing it himself for some side money. He kind of like organized and orchestrated other people doing it. And like, I think like people under him, and it was kind of like a little bit of a network thing. At least that's the impression I got from reading his letter. All in all, I mean, it's not like, it's one of those things. I don't know. It's so awkward for me, and I'm probably going to get blasted for this, but whatever. It's so awkward for me to like read the apologies from these guys. Like, I should have been aware that my actions were harmful. Like, you'd think he like went out and committed like a violent crime the way he had to apologize for this thing, and it's it's just, it's not something that I personally like. I don't look down on somebody as a person for doing stuff like that. Like you said, he was trying to like feed his family and stuff. Like he needed money, dropped out of school. He was pursuing a video game career, and he looked for other ways to make money, but nonetheless, it's not something Blizzard can tolerate. So he's got to show contrition. He's got to apologize. It's just, I don't know, it's just one of those kind of awkward lines where when you see like a football player giving that press release and having that press conference, it's like he ran somebody over with his car. Looking at you, Marshawn Lynch. But yeah, it's it's just kind of one of those awkward situations, but nonetheless, regrettable actions were taken, and these are the consequences of those things. So it's unfortunate to see happen, and have a team tied to it and all these things, and they had to have known it was a possibility when they were signing him. If they didn't,
it was. I mean, that was a pretty big thing for a while. I mean, he was even like off of the Overwatch League website and like not listed in the roster in a lot of places for a long time.
Yeah, it was just kind of an awkward situation, but nonetheless, a tough one to see Philadelphia go through. So I guess if you haven't listened to the last episode where we go over the positional battles that might be at place, you can skip that portion of the conversation. So, congratulations, Fraggy, for winning that positional battle.
Exactly. So I didn't actually mention this, but Sado did write, like, it's literally a handwritten like apology. It's available on the Fusion website, social media, as well as the Overwatch League site. So, I think I actually agree with you on this one. Like, I don't know. Like, yes, I definitely agree with Blizzard that like it's against their terms of service for the game. It's against the spirit of Overwatch ranked. It's, I guess just a dishonest thing in a way, but like, it's like almost a completely victimless crime. And like, if like, I don't see that much wrong with it. Like, I don't really like if someone like people do this.
It's like in-game bad. It's not out-of-game bad.
Right.
Like,
100%. Like, there's nothing like morally wrong in a non-Overwatch the game itself specific way. Like, it really like, and like even then, like I get from Blizzard's standpoint, and I get from like the PR standpoint of the team as well. I get that, but like, I don't know, 30 matches, like 75% of the season for something like that. I don't know, man. That seems rough.
It seems steep, but I totally get it from Blizzard's perspective. I mean, they're trying hard to fix the game from a competitive standpoint. They're even trying to like improve the ranked experience by kind of like pushing the pros to play it more and to use it instead of doing the off off-platform
pugs,
pugs
yeah.
and stuff like that. So I totally get it. Like they're going to need all hands on deck, and like Sado said in his apology, like part of the reason that I did it was because like I was really frustrated with ranked. Like it was kind of an annoying process, so I decided to like use it to my advantage. But at the same time, like it's not going to get better if I contribute to the problem. So it was definitely it's something they need to take a stand on, and they need to do it in the most public way they can so that the most people see it and hear it and feel the impact of it. But yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's just kind of one of them.
So one thing that I didn't really look, but I didn't see anything specific on it is like he's suspended for the first 30 matches, but is he still getting paid for that time? Like, because if it's just he can't play, okay, I get that. Like that's an effective slap on the wrist. And like, yes, it sucks. You're in Overwatch League, but you can't play. You don't get to be on that stage. But if he's also not getting paid, that seems grossly overstepping the bounds of like what should happen. Like if he's missing out on 75% of his salary because of this, like that seems way out of proportion for what he did.
Well, I think that would all depend, right? Like, because they're not going to take his salary away. I wouldn't think if he's like with the team participating in scrims and in team meetings and all. If he's able to do all that stuff, I think he's still probably drawing a salary. But yeah, I don't know. I think basically we should just probably not comment too much on this topic because I mean it's got to be a much more hotly debated subject matter in Korea where he comes from, and you know. And, those things, and I just don't know the impact of it. I just know sitting here, like, I hate to say, I know people that do this. Like,
like you know, this is like a common thing for like in Hearthstone. It's common in, I mean, in World of Warcraft, this was like basically like its own economy for the longest time. Is like buying a new account.
Yeah, I definitely never sold a World of Warcraft account. I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, so like when I think about it more like that, it's like, you know what? Like I get what Blizzard's doing, but I get from their perspective what they're doing, but I think it's like that's not that ain't right, man. Like and like I get, and what actually kind of makes me more passionate about it is like he basically like completely folded, crumbled under it, which I get from his perspective because when you fight back like DeFran did, you just get banned. Like Blizzard is not going to tolerate it, whether it's morally good, morally bad, or like something you should be able to do or not. Like from Blizzard's perspective, they don't think it is, so you can't do it. It doesn't matter if it's right or wrong.
I do think from a moral perspective, it's much more frowned upon in the Korean ecosystem.
I guess, but like
their community. But
if XQC did this, or if someone else if one of the Western pros did it, would it not be a big deal? Does everyone get banned for 30 games for this?
I mean, I think the punishment would be the same, but I also think the public outcry for it would be smaller. You know what I mean? Like people would just be like, oh, okay. Like, it wouldn't be a big deal other than like the fans of the team would be upset. But
I don't know. It's just such a weird thing. And I guess I don't know. Maybe I just don't know enough about it
we're
really
splitting hairs, and there's two completely different communities affected by this, and they have very different opinions on it. So
yeah,
I don't know.
I think if he's still getting his salary, like I don't care. Then let him sit the games out as like a show of don't do this, don't disrespect the game. Which I guess it is. It's disrespecting the game, but like that's the type of thing where like if I don't know. I'm trying to think of like a parallel here. Like if LeBron James was like posted a video of him, like I can't even. There's not
put on a costume and went and played in the NCAA. That's what it would be. No joke. And like nobody noticed until the Final Four. Like that's what it would be. And
he just like dressed up as a character.
Yeah, like he just put on those awkward like nose mustache glasses. It was just like, hey, and it's not LeBron, nobody would notice. Yeah. It's the king in the back of his jersey, but like, whatever.
It's like Superman, like he puts the glasses on and no one can tell.
Yeah, just it's a completely different person. I couldn't imagine who they could be.
That sounds great. I think you picked a bad analogy because I really
I
want that
watched-
to happen now.
I watched the heck out of that.
Yeah, you have no idea how much I'd watch that. There was actually a whole movie about that with like the guy that like went in the like ex NBA player that like dressed up as a woman and played in the WNBA. There's a whole
I've heard of
movie about
grown
that.
men dressing up and playing pee-wee football with 7-year-olds. Like it's insanity.
Oh yeah, and Uncle Drew, Kyrie Irving being Uncle Drew and just playing in a men's league. That would be so great, though. I would love to watch that. You know what? I'm 100% in on Sado. Sado should actually make money from this, but only if he was wearing a costume while doing it. Oh man, that got out of hand really quickly. So let's move. We do have
5-minute throwaway time. Just dominated 20 minutes of show.
20 minutes of me just laughing at my own jokes. Let's move on.
10 minutes of I don't know from both of us, and then just
and then honing in on a conclusion that was the best. But keeping on the topic of the Philadelphia Fusion, I'm just gonna bust it out here. They get the shame bell. Shame of the week goes to the Philadelphia Fusion, not because of the Sado debacle, we'll call it, but there are, quote, logistical issues that are keeping them from playing in the Overwatch League preseason. And that it's just like it sucks for them, and it sucks worse for their fans or like prospective fans, because like we've already seen in our Discord like people like wanting to be Philly fans, and like this is not helping them. Like I think preseason is going to be huge for building the hype. Like it's the first thing, man. Like it's the first time we get to see these players play in their jerseys as their teams against each other, and like Philly's like, not doing it. Like I think if they have 6 people in the U.S. that can play, they need to suit up and play.
Yeah, and I think that's
have at least
basically the
6.
bulk of it, is that I think they just don't have 6 right now. I don't think it's about like which ones they have, but to me, this just like, what are you doing? Like every other team, like there's one more visa issue that we're gonna be looking at, and it's documented and explained, and they're really like, and we might as well just out with it. Like Mendo won't be able to participate in the preseason for the Houston Outlaws due to visa issues. He's in the U.S. He's practicing with the team. He's scrimming with the team. He's there, like in the compound. Like go watch the videos. He's there. But because of the way the visa works, he can't work, or in other words, play in the actual events until he exits the country and then re-enters through customs. I've never had a visa in my life for going traveling anywhere. So I can't speak to how that normally works, but everything I've said that's fairly common. And, literally if they wanted him to play super, super bad, like they could get in a car, drive him to Mexico, turn around across the border, come back through customs, and he'd be fine. But there's like all these guys just moved here. Like the team doesn't just have cars in LA ready to go, especially in LA and in that area. Like public transportation and the use of it is much more common and much more accessible than in our area of the country, things like that. So I don't know. There's actually was even conversation that he might actually make it, because there were like people on Reddit volunteering, like, I'm 20 minutes away from the compound, like I'll just drive you down there, like it'll be fine, I want to see you play. And I just be careful, Mendo, like those could be Fuel fans in disguise, out to do you harm and like leave you stranded in Mexico. I don't know. If you need to wait for Flame to be able to drive you, you by all means wait. But yeah, just be safe, man. I don't know. It weirds me out taking Reddit rides.
And like it's not like, I don't know. I don't know. Really, the shame of the shame bell for that just goes to the whole visa system and the government. Like, so we'll give that to them.
I don't know. I can't give Philly a pass. Like 11.
I'm not giving a pass to them. I'm also giving an additional shame bell to the government.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we can double it up. I mean, it's a complicated process. I get it, but it just seems so arbitrary, right? Like I can't imagine this is the problem for Philly, right? Because if your team can't participate, like you can bet your bottom dollar that somebody in Houston would be paying for the Uber or whatever it was needed to cross the border and come back. But I guess like, just like Mendo's name that has like foreign characters in it, and like his middle name sits officially in front of his first name, and like there's all these factors that usually hold him up at the border. So he's just going to kind of wait and I think take a flight out and then take a flight back into the country. It's just a mess. Like these guys have so much to focus on and so much going on in their heads right now. It seems crazy that they've got to deal with all this. But hopefully the process gets refined and everything is cleaned up, because when they're traveling on the regular, like, you know, but maybe it's just easier when they're going for 2 days.
And I think, you know, I think it's just clear that since the whole team essentially is having visa issues for Philly, like someone at some point in the org just goofed. Like, you didn't do it early enough, you didn't do it correctly, you didn't check the papers, you didn't do
waited too long. But like, even if it's just like sign your players faster so that way you can apply for the things that you need to apply for on time. Like, I don't know, something wasn't handled right, clearly, because there's 11 teams that were able to get 6 people, including Chinese and Korean teams. Like, I'm sorry,
100%. Yeah, like London Europe got 12 Korean players in from a, you know, technically EU team owned by a US org. Like, you goofed, Philly, and that's why you're getting
shame.
You're getting your bells, man. Hopefully they'll have that all sorted out by by opening day, because if they don't, then you know what, I'll just take my free wins as the other teams. Like, you know what,
we've got 2 rosters ready to go that we drafted. You just let us know. Philly needs a team. Like, we'll combine the 2 of them together. Pick a super team and we'll run it. You just let us know.
Just let us know.
We'll just borrow their $20 million they paid for that spot.
Exactly. Yeah, we'll just take that and not be held
accountable. I'll make it up of all U.S. players if I have to. Just so I don't have to have visa problems.
Exactly. Exactly. But let's move on to I think the meat and potatoes of this episode. We've got the match predictions for preseason. We've got the first round of preseason games set up and ready to go. I think, you know, it's kind of weird because on the website each team is going to be playing 2 games, but the second round of games are not announced yet.
Yeah, they're all TBD, which is goofy since we're like days away from it.
Yeah, so I'm guessing it's like winners versus winners, losers versus losers. Like, that makes some sense, right?
It could be, but it could also be really awkward if like San Francisco
Shock
San
wins
Francisco's
both.
filling in for Philly, so they have the first 2 matches they're in, which is awesome because that's a roster very in flux, and I have a lot of questions about how they're gonna you know, hang at the beginning of the season. We've talked about it a lot before Super and Sinatra are eligible to play, so it'll be great to see them get an extra match in there. You know, big shout outs to them for being willing to do it. You know, Florida was just going to not have a match too. And granted, they don't have a lot of questions and things like that, but we've got Fusion fans in Discord that were not Fusion fans, Mayhem fans in Discord were, you know, upset and worried about that. Like, well, what are we supposed to do?
I'd be
like,
upset.
we're supposed to play them. So it's great to see that, you know, they're going to get to play it out, but yeah, we wanted to just basically take a little bit, kind of go through each of the match predictions, remind you of the positional battles that you're going to be looking out for that we talked about last week. We're not going to go in depth on them. I just kind of want to reiterate them. And then we're going to predict each and every one of these matchups and try to get an outcome here for how things are going to work out.
Yeah. So one thing to note about the preseason and about the positional matchups specifically, now this is unconfirmed, but it was leaked, you know, quote unquote leaked from XQC. So take it with a grain of salt. And then it was all, I mean, it basically spread like wildfire. I saw it from a video that Michael posted, but basically people are saying that XQC said that you have to play all of your players in the preseason games. So like at some point in the match, all your entire roster has to be on the field at some point.
I can see it. I can definitely see that. I think that's a good way to go about it. That's a way I would definitely go about it regardless, right? Like, no matter what your plans are for them, you know, no matter what, you're going to have like people that are like fans of your team because, you know, and especially I think, you know, Dallas is the best example of this, right? Like, we saw numbers on how impactful their stream audiences were, you know, how many follows they had on all different social media, stuff like that. Like, Dallas kills everything. In those numbers and in those measurables. So it's going to be really interesting to see, how many people are really kind of following that. Like I said, Dallas is being the poster boy for this. Like Seagull fans, plenty of Seagull fans know almost nothing about Overwatch and like how the game is played and things like that. But yet they're the most dedicated fan base of all the streamers and all the pro players. Like just because Seagull will appear no matter what in the matchup that they're in, like it will be the highest viewership. So I think it's very good for just getting people in. It's going to make sure and force everybody to get to see their players, which I think is a good thing. And it'll force us to have tape on all of them, right? Like now we can really look and sit down and go over those positional battles after the fact and say, okay, well, let's look and see how they did with, it's a bad example because he can't play, but like Mendo, how did he do? Okay, now let's look at the clockwork time. How did he do? What how impactful was the tracer play there? And you can kind of compare those things and get a good idea of it. So I love it. Also, I think it really forces London's hand a little bit to kind of show, are they going to mix them up? Are they going to keep them together? I think if they're smart, they keep the two rosters together for this one, but we'll have to wait and see.
So I agree with everything you said. I think it makes a lot of sense to just do it like this. I mean, preseason is, at least for this, it's much more about building viewership, building fan bases, getting the teams acclimated from that sense rather than like strategic sense. So getting all the players out there and, used to even just used to the formatting and the flow of like the event is going to be useful for them, for all the players. I think it also kind of normalizes it so like all of the teams can be on the same level in terms of tryharding and not like, I mean, there's always that like built in like, oh well, we're gonna withhold strats and stuff and we're not gonna play our starters because we don't want people to see how they're playing. It's like, well, nope, they gotta play now, and it's the same for everyone. So it's not like it has to be like an unwritten code of like, oh, no one's playing their starters and then no one's happy about that. I think that people would at least think about that if it wasn't like mandated. So it makes a lot of sense. But let's start with the first matchup of the Overwatch League preseason, and we've got Florida Mayhem versus the San Francisco Shock. Death, who are you picking?
Well, I'm going to give the positional battles just a reminder. Obviously, Florida only has 6 players, so there's no what's it called, suspense there, or no questions to be had there. However, they're going against the San Francisco Shock, and they have kind of the immediate questions as well as the long-term questions. So I'm going to be really watching the division of the tank play or the DPS play here. Obviously, we really need to know who's going to be their primary Genji player. That's going to be really, really important. Also, I want to see if they pull out any Pharah. I want to see who's going to handle the projectile for this team. I do assume IDDQD will kind of handle the hit scan for the time being, but also we don't really know. Their off tank situation is very in flux as well. So there's going to be a lot of flexibility going on there. So specifically IDDQD, Baby Bay, Dante, and Nevix, I'm very curious to see what they display from their hero pool. What have they been working on? What have they playing now? That's going to answer a lot of questions, and we got 2 matches to watch. But in the first one, I'm going to go ahead and take Florida here. I think with all those questions, with the uncertainty of San Francisco and with Florida just rolling in like, hey, we're still misfits. So, this isn't a situation where I think that their lack of depth hurts them. That's more of a down the line thing. That's a little bit your ability to like game plan them, but nobody's game planning for the preseasons because nobody knows what to expect and nobody knows anything yet. So the game planning will start after this. So for the time being, Florida should just, I think, cruise with an easy victory here.
Yeah, I mean, I've been like one of the main proponents of Florida is underrated, and I think that this is no different. I think this I'm really glad that this matchup is happening first because this is going to be the poster child of established roster versus Junkenstein's monster roster. Who wins in this battle? Like, I would put my money on Florida, but I also wouldn't be surprised if Shock just comes out of nowhere. Granted, they're still not unlocked. Obviously, we know Sinatra and Super can't play. So that is a hurt. But, like, I wouldn't be surprised if this one's closer than I would normally think. But, I'm going with Florida. I think Florida is a top talent in the league. despite what a lot of other people are saying, but I think it could be close. It could be close, but I also wouldn't be surprised really with any. The only thing I would be surprised is if Shock rolls over Mayhem. But if Florida rolls over, if Mayhem rolls over Shock, wouldn't be surprised. If it's close, I wouldn't be surprised. And if Shock wins a close one, I wouldn't be surprised either. But
I'd be pretty shocked if the Shock pulled off the victory in this one, honestly. We'll have to wait and see. I would say, honestly, I would say even getting to a 3-1, right? Because Florida can't put in bench players. They have no options to upset their rhythm or just their general, team synergy. That's not going to be disrupted in any way, shape, or form. Even if they all pick meme heroes and off roll, that would definitely level the playing field a bit. But there's going to be no hiccups there. It's just going to kind of be like business as usual. Florida's just showing up for a scrim, and San Francisco's got a little bit more to deal with and more to balance and more to focus on. So I almost think 3-1 would be a pretty exciting outcome here for San Francisco.
For sure. But on the same token, if Logix is having a bad day or if someone's having a bad day, they only get to play this one match. There's no sub to take out your guy who's not feeling well or just not performing well. It's possible. So I'm not ruling it out. I do definitely pick Florida for this one. But next match, we've got Shock playing again, but this time they're going to be playing against LA Valiant.
Yeah, so the Valiant have a ton of questions across their whole roster. They're the ones that kind of laid out that they basically doubled up on every spot so that they have kind of a built-in competition / partner to learn and study with. So really across the board here, we're looking at Fate versus Numlock. How are they coexisting? How are they splitting their time? We also have Envy versus Space, Unco versus Kariv, Grim Reality versus Soon, and Agilities versus Silk Thread. So this is kind of be an audition across the board here. LA Valiant should be for this reason, be one of the funnest and most exciting matches to watch, just for the sake of very similar to why I'm excited to see London play. They have full swap outs to do. There's 12 different players we're going to get to see play in this uniform and for this team. And I personally, outside of thinking Grim Reality should definitely have the spot over Soon, I don't have a firm grasp on who I think should start. All these guys I could see being able to, when playing well, outperform over the other ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. This is a tough one. This is, again, Junkenstein's roster with San Francisco Shock, and then kind of semi-established with additional players on for LA Valiant. I don't have too strong of feelings one way or the other, but this is one of those kind of coin flip ones, I think, and I really do think Shock has a chance here. So they're going to be warmed up, right? They're going to have already played a match, which is not going, I guess it could hurt, but I think it's going to help more than anything. Just being warmed up, being used to the format, being used to how they're going to actually do their lineup change. And maybe something was drastically wrong and they can figure that out. So I think that's going to give them a little bit of an advantage. I think they're pretty close one way or the other. Maybe on a normal day, I'd pick LA Valiant, but I think for this preseason match specifically, I'm going to go with the Shock here.
I can see it. This isn't like Florida where I think it's kind of cut and dry. I was very torn on this one. I'm going to pick LA just because I generally think they have the more complete, the more balanced roster. There's a decent chance though that you're right, and LA doesn't need to come out. They're not one of the teams I don't think needs to come out and really fight to win this match. They can come out just, hey, let's make a lot of subs. Let's get really used to that process. Let's make sure we're very, very comfortable with it. And they could be more focused on the process than on the outcome here. And I wouldn't blame them. I wouldn't be upset about it at all. Even if they just get kind of beat up a little bit by San Francisco, as long as they're doing those things. And, that's a lot of value to that. So I'm going to pick LA here. But again, it's just, they're not a team I don't think looking at, especially with who the opponent is, it's a close, they want to win it, I'm sure. But I think if they're smart, they'll focus more on getting that value and that information from it. But at the end of the day, I think with the roster questions for San Francisco, I've just got to lean LA, right? Because they have options of a lot of evenly matched people. Yeah. And San Francisco's sitting in a position where they're who's going to even play projectile? Our off tank is not eligible. Like he is Super 17 right now. So Super 7. I didn't even mean for that pun. That was a good one. I like it. But yeah, so I don't know. We'll have to wait and see exactly how they handle it. But yeah, I'll lean LA for this one.
Yeah. The next matchup, I don't think we're going to be leaning. Well, we're not going to be leaning. We're going to be very firmly planted on one side over the other for this one. This one's going to be Seoul Dynasty versus Shanghai Dragons.
Yeah, a lot to be learned here. We're in a pretty firm agreement about who's going to win. I don't know that Shanghai has more than 6 players in the United States yet. At least the team photos and stuff I saw were exactly 6.
Yeah.
And the one positional battle we were talking about was 5 King versus Altering for the support role. I expect 5 King to win that job, but for the time being, we might need to see them both out there. So it's going to be interesting to see. Seoul is replacing 2 players, Eska and Who Are You? So it's going to be a lot of like, is it Munchkin or is it Bunny or is it Weekid or Guido or Fleta for replacing Who Are You? So we'll see exactly how these play out, but definitely keep an eye on the Seoul DPS players. We know they're all very individually talented and very skilled. I was watching Guido stream a little bit and just it's mind blowing some of the things he can pull off. He was even like playing out of role at the time, but yeah, so we'll see how they divide up that playing time. But I think this is going to be a telling scenario, right? Where if 2 of these 5 guys I've mentioned so far kind of dominate over the other 3, then I think we're going to get a lot of answers from this match. But yeah, I'll take Seoul to win this one. I think they could basically play, with any of the DPS kind of
just roll some dice and throw in the.
Yeah, Shanghai's kind of combining teams if memory serves, and I don't know. I have a lot of questions about Shanghai. I'm getting and just the results from the tournament we talked about earlier, the Nexus Cup. Just has me even more scared. I'm gonna have a hard time picking Shanghai for a little while here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty obviously picking Seoul as well. The one thing I will say is that Shanghai, and I mean, a lot of the other teams could, the teams at the bottom could really be in the same boat here. But for this matchup specifically, like Shanghai has a lot more to gain from this match than Seoul does. I think if Seoul wins in convincing fashion, okay. They did everything that was expected. They probably didn't learn anything crazy or any sort of strat or anything against Shanghai, whereas Shanghai has the chance to level up. No, they might not. They might just crumble, get completely rolled, and wipe your hands of it. But Shanghai has the most to learn here. They have, when you're coming from the bottom going up, like you have much more to gain versus arguably one of the top, a top 3 rated team for sure. Seoul Dynasty really only has one place to go, and that's down. It's also worth noting that the Chinese Overwatch is generally played slightly differently than the other regions, though we saw in the Nexus Cup it did not pan out for the Chinese teams versus the Korean teams specifically. That being said, Shanghai didn't play in that tournament. I'm imagining that as an Overwatch League team, they're taking this very seriously, and they probably want to do a good job. So I don't rule them out completely. I lied. I do rule them out completely for this match, but I think that they gain a lot more from this match than Seoul does.
Yeah, I only think this is super, super lopsided in the event that like Shanghai is forced to like play with 3 support players or something along those lines. But we'll have to wait and see. Again, it's unclear exactly who's in town for them and able to play at this time. But we'll see how it plays out. But I will say this is one of 2 matches where I feel like, Shanghai can't lose here, right? Like, yeah, everybody's expecting them to lose to Seoul. So if they go out there and get beat up by Seoul, like, oh well, it's preseason and it's going to be really easy to shrug off.
Yeah, and they're a top team. They've won Apex a million times, etc.
Right. Like this is like one of the teams, like right, and Shanghai is a combination of players from a variety of teams, things like that. So there's a lot stacked against Shanghai here. So if they're able to pull out, a map or 2 here, I think that would just be huge. So this is one of the 2 scenarios in the preseason where I just feel like a team can't possibly lose. But nonetheless, I will pick them to lose.
Yeah, and I think we might be in a situation like this here, but the Atlantic Division matches, the first one is going to be LA Gladiators versus London Spitfire. Or no, this is Atlantic Division. Yeah.
Yes. So the let's see, we've got LA Gladiators versus the London Spitfire. So the London Spitfire kind of writes itself here. We've got the two complete rosters. How are they going to combine them? How are they going to mash them up? It's definitely unclear, from our perspective, how they're going to handle it. And I hope they personally hide the information. Like, I hope they come out with just, okay, here's a map with with GC Busan, and here's a map with Kongdu, and then we'll alternate, and then we'll alternate. Like, just give us nothing. Like, that is exactly the way they should handle this.
Or they should just roll dice and put in 6 random people every single map.
That would work as well. But that, like, we won't know that that's what they're doing, right? Like, I want to see it clearly divided. Like, nope, giving you nothing. We're giving you the one thing you were sure we could definitely do. And I don't know.
But I think if you're the Overwatch League production staff, and like if you're London, you go, hey guys, we're gonna make a scene here. We're gonna do a little bit of we're gonna literally be rolling dice and calling people to go up to the stage. Like, have them film it, like make it a big thing. Like, that would be sweet, right? Like, because it's preseason, you're heavily favored. Like, who cares? Like, make it a thing. Like, people are gonna be talking about it all week. People are gonna be talking about it until the season. Then it's like, okay, already the story of London Spitfire is, okay, they're 2 great teams combined. Like, how good are they? Like, blah, 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 all the Cloud9 drama. Like, let's turn it around. Like, let's make it something bigger. Like, we're so confident. Like, and it's not like, it's slightly bad-mannered, but like, who cares? Like, they're so confident they're going to win. They're literally rolling dice and just rolling out 6 random people every time. Like, how awesome is that?
Just like a big game of musical chairs that they're watching, and then everybody sprints over to the desk to pick their claim their spots and try to play, and you just got like 4 what do we do now?
I think that would be awesome. I think like now is the time to do that. Like, have some fun with it. Like, you're heavily favored, like, go for it.
I don't know. It would be fun. I definitely hope to see them hide their information a little bit. But on the LA Gladiator side, they're a 7-man roster, so there's not a ton of questions to be had here. However, they do have the 3 DPS players of Asher, Surefour, and Hydration, so we need to know a little bit about how they're going to be divided up and who's going to be handling what duties there. Looking at the hero pools, it looks more like a Surefour or Asher scenario. And that's a tough ask, right? Because the Korean players are all super highly skilled individually, but we've seen Surefour be kind of a hard carry in a lot of scenarios. So I'm rooting for Surefour in that fight, but I don't honestly have a good beat on who it'll be, but it'll be fun to watch and see it play out for sure. Go ahead and give me London on that one.
Yeah. I picked Gladiators because I was thinking Gladiators when I was trying to write out London, and I didn't want to agree with everything. I didn't want to agree on every matchup, so I picked Gladiators on this one. But, honestly, like, Gladiators is another one of those teams that is the Junkenstein's monster, and I think just based on our community power rankings and just the overall not even looking at the entire data of everything from Reddit, but just the community power rankings and just the consensus from people is that they're undervaluing these, or they're not necessarily undervaluing them. They're valuing these Junkenstein's monster rosters lower than the predetermined teams. And I think that there's a chance, I think there's a chance for an upset. And I think that upset could happen here. So if I were, in the same way that if I were making a Final Four bracket, like, you got to pick some upsets, right? Like, you don't just always pick the better team. This is where I'm picking my upset for no reason other than that.
It's not a bad spot to pick it either, right? Because when you talk about with there being 12 rotating chairs here for London, and we're going to have at least 4 or maybe 5 of those chairs just be completely static for LA. I could see them maybe dropping the first map, but then the substitutions happen and LA is just ready to go, and London needs to like re-warm up, and so the map 2 is kind of like a warm-up game for them, and then there's just kind of that constant fluctuation that's going to go on the London side that won't be forced on them in the regular season, right? Like, they can opt not to do that for the sake of momentum and things like that, but they're not going to have that option here. It's going to be forced on them, so it'll definitely be a good quick here, or a good a good test, but yeah, we do got to move things along a little bit. So I'll just kind of advance us. The next one we're looking at is the big one, Dallas Fuel versus the Houston Outlaws. This is number 2, where one of these teams really can't lose. And to me, that's Houston, right? Like, I don't think too many people, myself included, would, in a stand-up fight between the two teams right now, like even I, as a big Houston fan, would pick Dallas to win that. So I think given that, that's kind of the expectation. I would pick Dallas to win. If this was week 1, I would assume Dallas would likely win the matchup. But looking at it here, I don't know. If you force Dallas out of the comfort zone of like just using Envious, I think that kind of creates an opportunity for Houston, who all they know right now is kind of swapping things up and figuring things out. I don't know. I'm going to pick Houston to win just for the sake of, like, I think there's a good chance Dallas like plays Coco and, the core for like one map, and then just says, oh, well, let's show them Seagull and XQC for the whole stream. Like, it's what the stream wants to see anyways. And I think if they do that, that'll upset enough of their core that Houston will have a real opportunity. It'll kind of level the playing field a little bit. I do view Houston as a deeper team than Dallas. Nothing against the backups that Dallas had, but I think bringing them in just upsets team synergy and stuff too much. And that's not really, as I see it, a problem for Houston, considering they're already in on that right now. I don't know. Might be reading too much into that, but I'll take Houston, and what I expect will probably be pretty close when they're, get into the throes of subbing everybody in and out constantly.
Yeah, I mean, this is also not a bad spot to do what I did for the last pick and just randomly pick an upset. I think this is one of the closer ones. Maybe, I don't know. I just find it very hard for me to but pick against Envious. Like, even if they have to switch up, like they can, like if they really wanted to try hard, like roll out Envious roster, demoralize Houston in the first map, swap out, for your subs, let them play the minimum amount, and then throw Envious back in. They could do that. I don't think they will, just because there's really not too much benefit in destroying a team in preseason. But I think if they wanted to, they could. And for that reason, I don't think anyone wants to lose in preseason, even if it's in good fun. And I think that you really want to start that rivalry off with a W and potentially a big W. So I could see them try harding a bit. I don't think they're going to try hard as much as I just described, but I think that they are going to go for the win, and I'm picking Dallas there.
Real quick, Dallas, we talked about how we don't think there's many positional battles that are really up for debate here. But on the Houston side, again, we're going to be looking at, how are the DPS play being divvied up, right? It's going to be mostly Clockwork. The Clockwork Mendo question won't be answered if you have it personally. But I want to see how they use Linkser and Jake. Do they ever combine them? Do they bring them in? And more specifically, I really want to know, who are Raucus and Bonnie playing with, right? Like, what combination of roster members are they using? Like, if we see one of them come out in the first team and it looks like, it's got like Cool Man on it and Linkser's on it, and, and all the guys that we're pretty sure are going to be starters, despite the presence of backups or what have you on the team. If one of them is out with that group and then the other one's not, I think that might give us an answer to who's going to be kind of the starter here. So Raucus versus Bonnie is definitely the big highlight for what to look out for.
Yeah, for sure. But we've got the last match of the first wave of preseason ones, and this is my bread and butter here. We've got New York Excelsior. Hold on, let me cue it. Excelsior versus the Boston Uprising, and I'm just gonna put it out there, like, there's a 0% chance Boston even takes a single point. There's a 0% chance that Boston even gets out of spawn. That's how confident I am.
Yeah, so I don't know. There's been a ton of, Bare Hands is definitely in chat, so I agree. But nonetheless, Boston is a team that people are not really sleeping on, right? Like, for the most part, like, there's not a ton of optimism there, but we're starting to hear a lot of people like give them credit, right? And like, there's a video out. Michael did a whole series about why he thinks Boston is, and he was trying to convince everybody, and he didn't convince me, but it was a well thought out video about why Boston can go beyond being just even a player, why they could be a quality team in this league and be towards the top of the standings. And I don't necessarily buy it, but he laid out and showed stats for some of their players. They really seem to have put a good amount of thought into which players they were pulling from kind of the sub-Korean teams that weren't, necessarily thought of it being at the top of the, being at the top of the standings in Apex or anything like that. But, I don't know, just looking at kind of some of the raw stats, like there's firepower here. I think the Korean talent will likely kind of win over those spots in the end, and in an effort to make them as competitive as possible at the beginning, because I think they're a team that really wants to exceed expectations. But nonetheless, I'm going to take New York to win this one big. I don't see it really coming out any other way, and I'm not really going to sit here and think Boston is going to be more than I thought they were going to be and what they look like they're going to be until they show me they're not. So I'm going to take New York in a big win here. I would be surprised if this wasn't 4-0 personally.
Yeah, and you're also pretty much contractually obligated not to root for Boston anyway as a Bills fan. So,
yes,
I mean, like, sure,
I'll always do my predictions, removing my hatred out of these things, in my rankings, things like that. But at the same, I will definitely know who I'm rooting for. Like every time Boston's in a match, 100%, I will be rooting for the other team no matter who.
Yeah. So I hear what people are saying about the Boston players. Like maybe they're better than we expected. Okay, great. Are they better than the teams that we already see? I doubt it. And they're definitely not better than New York. So that's really all that I need to know for this one. Yeah, New York in a big way. And if I'm not going to make any bold prop bets about it if New York loses, because I don't even want to think about that being a possibility, because it's not going to happen.
So keep an eye out on Note versus Kalios for the off tank for Boston Uprising. Also Avast versus Kellex in the support position. And New York, as Bearhand stated, they're not really looking at it like, here's our starters, here's our bench players. We have a lot of these situational players that are not necessarily even situational players, but we have a lot of situations where we prefer one player over another. So I think it'll be really interesting to see. And I think that's a team that we might get a glimpse at kind of their week one. Like they might have to start putting that into practice and seeing how it works on the fly. They might want to use their actual strategy and their line of thinking in the preseason, because they have a lot of talent on that team. So, and it's going to be hard to decide and pick the right players at the right time. And it could decide the outcomes of a lot of matches. So I would like to see them, really giving it their full go and trying to level up and think. And they're going to have to work with we're forced to play everybody limitation, assuming that's accurate, and I assume it is. But I don't know. So we'll have to wait and see exactly how they roll out their players. But I'm excited to get to see them, intermingle all those guys together.
I think New York should take my suggestion of just like call the staff over the production crew and just roll dice to roll out a lineup. They will still win. The other thing, and I'll mention this really quickly, is like in the last couple of weeks I personally have seen a lot of new New York Excelsior fans that are finally like, oh wow, these guys really are good, because the players are now actually playing on stream, and they're like, oh, we forgot how good these players were, or we didn't watch Apex, and like, okay, to an extent we're kind of in that same boat, but in a lot of ways. But like people are finally seeing like, oh wow, Sabayobi is actually just the absolute nuts. Okay, I'm in on this team. So definitely, we're seeing a lot of new New York Excelsior fans after actually having seen them played. But
the New York question isn't, are these guys going to be good, and are these guys going to be competitive? I think everybody's very convinced and very positive they will be. It's, can they put all the pieces together that's needed to at the end of the season, right? To take home the championship and to be playing their best at the end of the season. That's going to be the goal and the challenge for this team. And it's something that, that's what we haven't seen from them in Apex, right? Like that's what we want to see is the championships, the finishing off. It's not, getting to the top and being one of the best teams. That's always been the case with them. They need to close. So I don't know that there's a ton we learned at the beginning, but they just need to refine the process and work with the deeper benches for sure. My
only question about New York is, am I able to order a custom number 34 jersey with my name on the back? That's really all I'm asking at this point.
Tomorrow.
I will know tomorrow. And I also want a jersey that's entirely the logo, like over the whole jersey, like that, like cool. Did you see that? Did you see that one where it's like an inverted and it says NYXL, like in the inverted stripes, like it's like almost like an illusion. It looks like that is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I want one that's like that. But enough of me fanboying over. And cue it again. Let's close out the show, Death. I know we have an iTunes review.
Yes, we have a 5-star review from Egg Walls. I'm probably saying that wrong. My apologies. But High Noon Podcast is a place for competitive Overwatch news and insight. The podcast team does a great job with commentary and booking notable guests. Shout outs to A. Smith. Within the Overwatch community, my favorite episode was with the esports agent, the video game attorney who does the contracts for most of the Overwatch players.
Ryan Morrison.
Yep, Ryan Morrison. The hosts are constantly improving the show and adding new segments and hardware to make the cast better each and every time. Highly recommend if you are interested in following Overwatch tournaments, Overwatch League, and other Overwatch general news. Really appreciate it, guys. If you want to go ahead and support the show, this is the #1 way. If you have not left us an iTunes review, please do. It helps tremendously in just exposing us to new viewers and bumping us up the list when people search for Overwatch podcasts and esports podcasts. It helps a lot and gives us a ton of exposure. Please, there's links to everything on the website, highnoonpodcast.com. You can get a link right over to the iTunes page from there.
Yeah, so like that said, you can find everything on highnoonpodcast.com. You can always support us with an iTunes review. You can support us on Patreon if you wanted to, patreon.com/highnoonpodcast. You can also support us directly on Twitch. You can use your Twitch Prime sub. I know it's the beginning of the month. All your Twitch Prime people have gotten your Twitch Prime subs you can do. We are a Twitch affiliate, so you can subscribe to us over on Twitch. And I will say we are very, very close to a new project that we're close to announcing it. Not quite yet, but we're working on a lot of stuff. And there's
one big project, and we're really going to ramp up our content here as the league kicks off. No matter what, any individual project might fail at any given time, but we're definitely releasing more content, and we will just keep trying stuff until something sticks to the walls. And tune in; it should be a bare minimum a glorious disaster.
We also have another very exciting thing coming up that I can't announce yet, but just trust me when I say it's the most exciting thing that we have done. That's all I'll say about it. But that's going to be it, guys. Remember, you can check out everything over on highnoonpodcast.com. And check out the giveaway, because we want to give you your favorite Overwatch League team jersey. It's going to be an Excelsior jersey no matter what you pick. Did I say that out loud? That's going to be it, guys. I am the Blevins for Deathblow. Remember, guys, it's High Noon.
Got his boots and he put on his hat. He threw the coin away that same day. It's in his past and he's not looking back. He says, finding mine now, God's my way. He's not good, but he sure ain't bad. He'll make amends for the sins that he has. He says, I'll change the world one bullet at a time till I find mine.
Don't pay attention to the part where I completely messed up playing the thing. Okay, bye.